that in your sleep, yes, you're going to be a pound heavier in the morning, okay? But chances are there's a lot more to that pound of body fat that you think you've gained than actually calories, okay? Again, it goes back to gut content, it goes back to water levels, menstrual cycle, and when you ate your last meal and what that meal was composed of, all right? Again, there's going to be large water fluctuations, particularly on a month-to-month basis, depending on, obviously, if you're female or a male. If you're male, even if you're really good at drinking your water, that water is going to weigh something. So if you're consuming a lot of water, that's going to affect your scale weight, okay? If you're consuming a lot of carbohydrates, each gram of carbohydrate is attached to another 3 grams of water. So by eating more carbohydrates, you're going to weigh heavier simply by the added water that's attached to the carbohydrate. So these are all things that I don't want you to be obsessed by, okay? My perception of health and what you should be looking after is, are you visually changing? Are you getting stronger? And are your inches changing? Okay, that's what it's all should be about. And again, whenever people, and particularly females, say that they want to lose weight, it often is really connected to a poor self-image and low self-confidence. So again, we need to be able to change this perception, step away from the scales. Yes, you need to have some form of collective data, and I know you do that through the in-body scan, which is great, but start to look at changing your body perception. So go more for improved self-image through strength training, through looking after your nutrition. And these two things will help improve your body confidence. But whenever I speak to, again, apologies for the males in the room, this will apply to them as well. But whenever I speak to people who, like, some females again say that, oh, I was always the biggest in the family, or I can't get rid of this weight. I've always been big boned. I've always carried this weight and I just can't get rid of it. That's a self-image that you're bringing about with yourself, okay? So I like to talk in mindset, all right? And if you're talking about yourself like that, even if you do lose weight, you're going to gain it right back, okay? Because you're talking from a negative place. You're talking from a position where even if you lose it, it's going to come straight back at you, okay? So you need to be talking from your dream body, not your current reality, okay? This low level or poor self-image is what I believe is the reason that most females, most men can lose weight quite easily, because it can be easily done with practical principles. But if you're gaining the same weight all the time, I believe it's down to a poor self-image, okay? So how to change that? You simply need to think about your dream body, okay? So again, if you want to lose body fat, think about that person on a daily basis. Would they reach for that extra treat meal? Would they reach for that extra snack whenever they know it's maybe just a habitual pattern? Would they always eat out or maybe go to the chippy or the Chinese a couple of times a week? Would they be drinking a bottle of wine every night? Okay, again, I'm all for balance, I'm all for flexibility, but if you're not happy with your current body shape, you need to think from your dream body, not act from your current reality, if that makes sense, okay? Again, in terms of water retention, in terms of females, week 2 and 4 of your cycle is whenever your water retention rockets. So if you're obsessed with the scales, do not hop on the scales on week 2 and week 4 of your cycle, okay? Week 1 of your cycle is whenever you actually have, again, fellas, apologies, is whenever you have your period. Week 4 of your cycle is the week leading up to your period. So you weigh heavier, you've got more water retention, and you've just got zero confidence in that week. So if you're obsessed with the scales, do not go near the scales that week. So again, this is a typical cycle that most people go through, okay? They go around in binge cycles. They go around binging or starving themselves and then they binge. They starve themselves and then they binge, okay? So they think that they need to make a change. They want to change their body shape. They want to fit into that perfect dress or beef up and get into like a muscly top if you're a fella, okay? They think that they need to drop body fat, so they train loads. Then they start to eat as little as possible. These two things put significant stress in their body, and once the body is under that amount of stress, then your cortisol levels go up. And once your cortisol levels go up, it doesn't want to let go of that body weight, okay? So it's important you find balance whenever you do. So if you're starting a training program, start off easy. Start off 2 days a week, build up to 3 days a week. If you're starting off a diet, I always get my clients to start off in as little a calorie deficit as possible so that they can actually adhere to it and get results. And then you can start to increase your deficit from there. But what happens if you start training too much and eating too much all at the same time with a poor self-image is then you obviously rebound because you can't hack the pace. You haven't built up a good relationship with training, with nutrition and self-respect to be able to maintain that level, okay? So then you have all this self-doubt, you have this guilt, you have this worry that you're just meant to be this shape and you'll never change size. And once you do that, then again, you think about, oh, I've trained now, so I need a treat. Or it's the weekend, I can have that bottle of wine, I can go to the chippy because I've trained twice this week, okay? Again, I'm all about balance, but you need to actually find balance in your week. I'll show you in the next slide how insignificant one small training session is in comparison to everything else. So here we go. So this is where the gold lies, okay? So this wee diagram here is what's called your TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure, okay? This is a really poor image and source of really good images, but this is a really poor image. Apologies about the detail didn't come through there. But this is just an overview of probably a small amount of people you have in source, all right? And each and every single person in source, including everybody that's on here, including all the coaches, will have a different energy requirement, depending on obviously their sex, depending on their body weight, their goal, their relationship with food, their day-to-day job or activity. Everybody is going to be different, okay? And this is why these 100 or 1200 calorie diets are complete BS if they're not personalized to you, okay? But this is where the significant shape change happens, okay? So this full diagram here is called your TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure, and this is more or less where you kind of burn your calories, all right? So the bottom bit, so James Smith has a great analogy of this, and he comparisons this to like a 10-foot story building, all right? So the most of your calories are going to be burnt through your BMR. So your BMR, again, is specific to each individual, your age, your weight, and your activity levels. So this amount of calories, so the greatest amount of calories that you burn on a daily basis is just through your physiological processes. So even if you decide that tomorrow you're going to have a Netflix day and you're going to lie on the sofa all day, this is the amount of calories you're going to burn, okay? So that's specific to each individual. How do you calculate that is your kilograms, your body weight in kilograms multiplied by 22 for a female and 24 for a male, okay? So again, that's the first difference between male and females. So again, that can equate to maybe 1200 calories, that can equate right up to like 18, 19, 2100 calories. That's what your calorie allowance is, okay? And that's the basic amount of calories that I would get anybody to start a diet on, as close to your BMR as possible, all right? The gold where your shape change happens is actually through your NEAT, and this is where Darren Kirtle is a huge fan of, like your NEAT up 24/7. This is where the whole 10,000 daily steps came from, and this is more or less your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So this has a massive contribution to fat loss. So it's more or less how active you are around your physical training, and you can see there that your BMR is maybe about 6 flights off that 10-story building. Okay, your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or more or less walking, fidgeting, talking with your hands, getting up and down the stairs, up and down to the chair, walking to the parking your car as far away from the shop or your workplace as possible, so you have to walk. This is where your NEAT is, okay? And this is where the key to fat loss, I believe, is, all right? It's in your getting your steps done. So again, it's all about balance. So even though this whole 10,000 calorie or 10,000 daily steps is of huge importance, but if you're starting from a sedentary position, like I typically am, working at a desk all day, and my daily steps might be like 3,000 steps on a daily basis. For me, I need to jump up to 4,000 steps. Then I jump to 5,000 steps. And then you slowly build up to those 10,000 steps, okay? If you're at 3,000 steps, you don't need to jump straight in and attempt 10,000 steps straight away, because again, that's a stressor on your body. However, the more active you are around your daily activities, around your training, then the more fat loss you can burn, all right? So again, this 10,000 steps on a daily basis equates to 70,000 steps on a weekly basis, and that is equivalent to burning a pound of body fat a week. All right. So again, hopefully that gives you a little bit of understanding in terms of how you can burn more calories around the gym. Okay. Obviously, I'm still a huge promoter of going to the gym, lifting weights, and being active that way, mentally and physically. But if you look at the top, the energy expenditure, the EE, that is only like one flight of that 10-story building. Okay. So even if you train every day, twice a day, but you're sedentary around that and you're not eating enough calories or you're eating too many calories, then your shape won't change the way you want it to. Okay, so your energy expenditure is really only, again, what's normal, but you could be expending maybe 150, 250, 300 calories within an exercise session. Okay, but yet if you decide that you want to stay on the sofa having a Netflix day, your BMR will allow you to burn maybe 1,500, 2,000 calories, depending on your weight. Okay. So what your thermic effective feeding is, the two flights of that building is your thermic effective feeding, okay? And this is where you can actually burn calories through certain foods, i.e. protein. And again, I'm a huge protein fan. Not a high protein fan, just optimal protein fan. What that means is if I consume my required amount of protein intake, which is typically 1.6 to 2 grams a kilogram of protein on a daily basis. By me consuming that, I'm not only fuller and more satisfied from food, I recover quicker from training. My skin, my hair, my immune system's all better because of it, but I actually burn more calories through that digestive process, okay? I think it's something like 10 to 15% of calories are burnt through digestion of protein, okay? So if you consume more protein within your daily activities or within your daily life, then you will be actually burning more calories through that digestive process, okay? So again, if you're dieting or if you're calculating your calories, you diet as close to your BMR as possible at the start, and then you take it from there. Okay, again, whenever you're starting to be more active around the gym, you start off, you add on another 1,000 steps on a daily basis, then you build on that again. Okay, so again, so say for example you have this big dream goal of losing a stone. Okay, your first objective should be losing a pound, then it's losing 2 pounds, then it's losing 3 pounds. You walk in tiny steps. Okay, you build upon those habits. So with your NEAT, you're thinking about adding an extra 1,000 steps on a daily basis. Then make it 2. With your protein, again, if you base all your meals and all your snacks around a protein source, you will start to feel fuller, your mood and your blood sugar levels will all start to balance out, and you're going to drop body fat a lot quicker, okay? So as important as exercise is, that's not where the gold lies. The gold lies in what you do those 23 hours around your exercise session, okay? So hopefully that makes a wee bit of sense. If you do have any questions, folks, throughout this, do pop them into the box, and then Mark can just ask me because I can't see them. So energy balance is king, all right? So what is energy balance? Energy balance is more or less the difference between EI, which is energy intake through food, and energy output through walking, through steps, through digestive processes, okay? So if you're consuming more food and bringing in more energy than you're expending through exercise, through steps, then you're going to gain weight. If you are being more active and sitting in the calorie deficit, so you're not eating as much food as your body actually requires, then you're going to drop body fat. And that's as simple as that energy balance process is, okay? So the number one thing that people need to understand whenever it comes to fat loss is if you're not in an energy deficit and you are trying to lose body fat, then you won't lose body fat if you're not in an energy deficit, okay? So you need to be upping your exercise activity level slightly by walking more, getting more steps done, and pay more attention to what you're actually consuming, okay? So if you're always treating yourself, if you're always drinking fancy lattes, or if you're always in a surplus too often throughout the week and you're not active enough, then you will gain weight. It's as simple as that. So again, even if you think that your diet is healthy, but you're not changing your shape and you're not dropping body fat, then you're simply not in a deficit, okay? And that's what it all comes down to. So again, this 3,500 calorie rule, this is what it takes to burn a pound of body fat a week. you need to be in a deficit of 3,500 calories, okay? So again, how you do this? You can be in a 500 calorie deficit across a period of 7 days, or you can be smarter about it and you can decide that you want to be in a 250 calorie deficit through food, and then you want to do 250 calories more worth of training. Okay, so hop on the aerobic and do 250 extra calories, and that will allow you to hit your calorie deficit a lot better. Obviously, that will be dependent on each individual's calorie needs, okay? Which I haven't went into too much detail here. Some people like it within these presentations, and some people just feel overwhelmed if I'm starting to do a pile of maths within the situation, okay? But if you do want to go back and find out what your maintenance level calories are you get your weight in kilograms and you multiply it by 22 for a female and 24 for a male. And I will go back over that now in a second as well. Yeah. So then once it comes to energy balance, there's obviously a few significant changes between a male and a female whenever it comes to just appearance and the ability to lose body fat. A male, obviously, well, not obviously, again, there's no real normal, but a male has increased muscle mass. They're typically way heavier, and they're going to burn more calories doing the same activity than a female, okay? So doing the same activity, a male will burn 10 calories and a female will burn 7 calories. So if you and your partner go to the gym at the same time, you will have to stay in the gym a wee while longer in order to burn the same amount of calories as your male partner, okay? They're just lucky like that. Females tend to be shorter and lighter, and they store more body fat, okay? So they tend to have more issues or struggle a wee bit more to lose body fat because their starting calorie allowance is going to be lower to start with. They burn less calories per minute than a man, and they need more body fat simply for survival, for giving birth, for pregnancy. They need more body fat on their bodies, okay? We also have the huge part of a menstrual cycle that wreaks havoc with females' minds, but also plays with their hormones and can affect our weekly weight quite significantly. So I recommend that every female in here begins to track and understand their monthly cycle a lot more. Even if you're at the stage where you've gone past having your monthly cycles, you still need to track what goes on a monthly basis, because there will be some sort of cyclical routines or cyclical habits that you go through, okay? So it's important that you do that. Males on the other side, they have no stress, they've got no drama. So the only hormone they have is testosterone, okay? Well, sorry, the main hormone they have is testosterone. Females have a small amount of that, but they have loads of other progesterone and estrogen that affects their water retention, their hunger levels, their body fat levels as well. So we've got a lot more to play with whenever it comes to that. So don't be comparing yourself to a man whenever it comes to fat loss. He will lose body fat quicker than you, unfortunately for us females. So keep it simple, keep it stupid simple. This is just a simple pyramid of importance of what matters most whenever it comes to fat loss, okay? Down at the bottom here, we've got calories, all right? So if you eat more calories than you're expending, you're going to gain body fat. That's as simple as it is. It does not matter what diet you're on, okay? There's loads of diets you can go on to, keto diets, Slimming World, intermittent fasting. All those forms of diets are simply manipulation of calories. So if you like any of those, if you've tried any of them and you like them, by all means go for it. But all you're doing is manipulating your calories. So you can do it a much easier way by being flexible, having full understanding and control of your calories to drop body fat. Even for lads in here who want to put on muscle mass, it's more or less the exact same thing. Calories are king, okay? So keep it simple. If you are not losing body fat and that's your goal, you're simply not in a calorie deficit. So you either need to do a wee bit more activity, i.e. go for another walk, or spend an extra 5 minutes on a machine at the gym, or you need to pull back and pay attention to what you're eating, okay? And again, as from the previous diagram, nutrition is going to be king. How much calories you're bringing on a daily basis is going to be king. okay? So once it comes down to calories, again, if you don't want to track calories or have no notion of ever doing it, that's cool. You don't need to. But at the same time, I believe it's a nice education process to begin to understand what's in foods and maybe why you have been going wrong and where you are going wrong, okay? So again, your body weight in kilograms multiplied by 22 for a female, multiplied by 24 for a male is your maintenance level calories, okay? Or your basic amount of calories that you need. You then multiply that number by your activity level, which by your PAL, okay? A low level PAL, so for somebody who's sedentary, is in around 1. So you multiply that first number by 1.15, okay? As you get more active, you multiply that BMR number by 1.5, 1.15, 1.13, sorry, 1.15, 1.3, 1.5, 1.7, okay? 1.7 is for somebody who is has got a job that's on their feet all day long, and maybe they're even training twice a day, okay? For myself, I'm particularly sedentary throughout the day, but I do train. So I multiply my number by 1.3, okay? So again, if you're training twice a day, you'll go 1.5 and you've got a pretty active job. If not, you work around the lower levels. So again, those numbers, 1.15 for more or less sedentary, 1.3, 1.5, and 1.7. The more active you are, that number goes up, which gives you a greater calorie allowance, okay? So once you've got that calorie amount on board, you can do, if you do nothing else but monitor your calories and understand that if you want to drop body fat, you need to be slightly in a deficit of that, then, and if you track that, then that's all you need to monitor, your calories. Calories in via calories out, okay? But what matters most then whenever it comes to macronutrients is protein, okay? So again, I'm not a high protein person. Protein gets a lot of bait for kidney issues, etc. But that's not really the case, okay? NHS levels of protein is something in around 0.8 grams per kilogram, okay? Whereas most research will now back that it's closer to 1.6 to 2 grams, okay? If you're on, if you want to chase fat loss, I would encourage you to go closer to the 2 grams per kilogram body weight. So again, say for example, I'm 70 kg. I need roughly in around 140 grams of protein on a daily basis in order to hit my goals, okay? If I undershoot that slightly, I can still achieve my goals, okay? It's just a target. So try not to worry about this perfect diet. So these numbers are suitable or applicable to you if you track on MyFitnessPal. If you don't worry about it again. I will show you later on a wee bit more about non-tracking strategies. So once you've hit your calories, then you have filled most of those calories up with protein. Then it's really individual preference, whether you like more carbs or whether you like more fats. That's preference, okay? So I'm not anti-carbs, I'm not anti-fat, okay? You just fill up the rest of your calories with whatever you like once your protein goal has been hit, okay? Timing, again, it doesn't matter whether you decide that you want to do intermittent fasting and eat only between 12 and 8, or whether you decide that you don't like eating breakfast, you've got no appetite for breakfast, and you just want to eat at maybe 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the day. And again, this whole thing about not eating after 6 is non-existent, okay? It's not required. All that matters is the bottom rung of the ladder, is that you hit your daily calorie allowance or as close to it as possible. And then you see the small pit at the top is supplements. Completely insignificant if you haven't got the bottom rungs of the ladder in order, okay? So again, I'm not even going to touch on supplements tonight because that's where most people's eyes go to straight away for that quick fix. These whole skinny teas and fat loss coffees, they're a complete waste of time. You just need to be focusing on your calories, all right? So if you're not losing weight, you're simply not in a calorie deficit. Doesn't matter how clean or how healthy your diet is, you're simply not in a calorie deficit. So once you've got your calories sorted and your energy balance sorted, then macros are queen, okay? So again, the 3 different macronutrients, well, there is 4. The 4th one is going to be alcohol, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the 3 main ones. We've got proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, okay? So again, whenever you're looking at your plate or designing your meal plan, you should be thinking about adequate protein as #1 priority. The number there, the percentage, is if you decide that you want to track on MyFitnessPal. So protein should be set at 40%, fat should be set at 30%, and carbs are 30%. Again, you can fluctuate your fats and carbs if you wish, as long as you have your protein in around that 40%. Okay, so again, once you've nailed your calories, once you've set a base of consuming protein, then you think about fats. Then you add on your carbohydrates. So you look for balanced fats, you look for controlled carbohydrates. So what I mean by balanced fats is, again, everybody talks about good fats and bad fats. Think about your avocados, your nuts, your seeds, your flax seeds, your nut butters, even your dark chocolates. They're all healthy sources of fats. So if you can include those more into your day, then that will be allowing you to hit your goals a wee bit better. Whenever it comes to controlled carbohydrates, again, I say controlled because they are a non-essential macronutrient, which means that our body can work perfectly well without them. But as you see from the other side of the column, they are good. So there's no reason not to include them into your day, okay? Carbs are king for performance in my eyes, okay? So I would advise most of my clients to control carbs around your training session, okay? Which is something that's called carbohydrate bunching. So if you train first thing in the morning, you can have all your carbohydrates, that 30% of carbohydrates first thing in the morning after your training session. Again, whether it's pre-training session, post-training session, depends on maybe what time you get up at, what time the training session's at, really depends, okay? But you can have them in and around your training session. If you do want to split them out across the period of the day, that's cool. Again, no right and wrong. It's flexible. It's around your needs and around your goals and your daily intake, obviously. But typically, carbs will fuel your training session, so have those around your training session. If you're having lower activity days or rest days, then you don't need so much carbs, okay? Carbs gets a bad rap because most people have it in every meal. And they have it in every meal, but they don't eat adequate protein, okay? So that's where the bad rap comes in. If you prioritize protein, have it in every meal, you can still have your carbs as long as you've hit your protein target, okay? So those 40%, 30%, 30% are your MyFitnessPal targets if you do want to track. If you don't, again, that's cool. So once it comes to essential and non-essential macronutrients, your A and B here, your protein and your fats are essential, okay? Meaning you have to provide your body with those sources on a daily basis. Your carbohydrates are non-essential. Again, like I said earlier on, you don't need to be consuming them on a daily basis, but they are good. They make life a wee bit easier. So you can consume them as long as you're prioritizing your calories, prioritizing your protein, you can have whatever carbs you want, okay? Now again, this is for the females, okay? Your follicular phase is week 1 and 2 of your menstrual cycle, all right? Typically, I would get my clients to have more carbohydrates within those first two weeks, so that first phase of your cycle. And then once you go into the second half of your cycle, i.e. the luteal phase, I would ask you to consume a wee bit more fats because your hunger will be up during that stage. So fats will satisfy you a wee bit more than your carbohydrates will, okay? Plus, in the early stages, your follicular phase, week 1 and 2, you will feel leaner and you will be able to have a greater training output. So again, carbs will complement that. Once you get to the luteal stage, the week 3 and 4, building up to your cycle, more fats will benefit you to keep you fuller and help keep your cravings at bay. Okay, again, that's highly personalized, but do try to do that if you have been tracking. So again, personalize all this and then persist with what works. Okay, again, I'm a huge believer that it's not a one size fits all. Okay, if something doesn't work for you, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. You just have to try something different. Okay, again, you all probably know even more diets than I know of, and each of them might work, but they mightn't work for the next person. Okay, so you have to find out what works for you. Again, what matters most is that you work off maintenance calories to start with. So when's the best time to start a diet? It's not on a Monday. For females, again, it's going to be week 1 of your cycle. Okay, then it can be Monday after that if you want. Okay, but you start on maintenance calories. If you jump, like I mentioned earlier on, if you jump straight into an aggressive calorie deficit, i.e. restricting your food intake, and training really hard and as often as possible, then it won't work out well for you, because you're just going to go around that cycle at the start of the presentation. So I would take a pre-diet phase. So you go on to maintenance calories to start with. This will help you start to build up an appetite. This will help you fuel your training and get a better understanding of your nutrition as well. After a few weeks of maintenance calories, which is the number we calculated at the start, then you can go into a deficit, i.e. eating a wee bit less food, being a wee bit more active to help complement your fat loss goals. Once you've got those calories, then you think about your macro targets. So again, just as I mentioned on the previous slide, you're thinking about 40% protein, 30% fats, 30% carbs. Again, once you've got that, work on your NEAT. So if you're doing 3,000 steps on a daily basis at the minute, how do I be more active? Oh, I'm going to go 4,000 steps. I'm going to walk an extra lap around the pitch, whatever it is, but start to be more active, okay? Again, most people, whenever they want to drop body fat, they want to go as aggressive with the deficit as possible, okay? But that's not really necessarily the best way to do it. You want to do it so slow and sustainably, so it's not a diet, okay? Again, most females tend to diet for their full lives, and that's not the way it should be, because you're not living, okay? So slowly start to up your step count, and then add on your extra training on top of that. So again, how do you assess then if this is working for you or if it's not, okay? So what are your goals? Are you achieving them? What's your hunger like? What's your cravings like? If you are too hungry on a diet and you've got too many cravings, then you simply need to pull back a wee bit. You're doing too much training and you're not eating enough food, okay? But bearing in mind, there will be some hunger required in the early stages of a diet in order to allow you to know that you're actually in a deficit, if that makes sense, okay? But again, cravings are going to change around the monthly cycle for a female. So you have to be mindful of that. You have to try and eat more fats around that week 3 and 4 of your cycle in order to manage these cravings. And again, if you're more into performance, how is your energy whenever you're performing, whenever you're at the gym, whenever you're in the work environment? Have you got enough energy? If not, then again, you're maybe doing too much training and not fueling your body adequately enough. Okay, so these are all wee questions in yellow you can be asking yourself to assess if you're actually achieving your goals, if this diet is working for you. Okay, because if you're not getting results on a weekly basis, the numbers don't add up. Okay, and again, what is your mood like? Again, if you're in too much of a restriction, if you're too much of a deficit, your mood's not going to be good. If your mood's not going to be good, you're going to want to reach for some foods that aren't going to be chicken and broccoli. If you aren't giving yourself enough calories, you're not going to feel like going for those extra steps and getting your NEAT up. So it's important that you're asking yourself these on a weekly basis. These are the types of questions that I ask my clients on a weekly basis to allow me to understand if this calorie allowance is serving them, okay? In the red here, we've got, if you're straight into too big of a deficit, i.e. you're training too much and you've pulled back on your food way too much, if you're looking fat loss. This promotes underreporting, especially if you have a poor relationship with food and diet in the past, okay? So this is why I try not to go too aggressive with a deficit in the early stages, because people aren't really ready for it. It does take discipline, it does take patience to allow your body to drop body fat, okay? So how I work with my clients is I give them a weekly calorie budget, okay? And that's the number we calculated earlier on, multiplied by 7. That's your budget for the week, okay? So we stick to that as consistently as possible for as long as possible. Once we stop to see fat loss, then our next change is either to upper cardio, which I would prefer, and then we start to drop calories. If, again, particularly as a female who has a less calorie allowance to start with initially, if you go straight into dropping calories too aggressive and too much and too quick, then soon you'll be on like an 800 calorie diet, and that's just not cool for anybody, okay? You could go to Cafe Nero there and get a fancy latte with some cream on it and scone, and that's your calorie allowance gone already, okay? So you're not living. If your weight loss starts to stall, which it will do if you are dropping body fat and training, your weight loss will stall at a certain stage, okay? So what do you do then? Then you think about being more active. So you up your steps. If you're built up to 10,000 steps, then you do 11,000 steps. Then you do 12,000 steps. You build up your cardio first to help increase the deficit. Then you go into dropping calories even further. Okay? But try not to be too aggressive with dropping calories too early, because it just won't serve you. And you're going to go off the wagon and you're going to want to binge because you're not giving your body what it needs. So here's some anti-hunger strategies. How to be on a diet with less food than you're used to, but not feel like you're on a diet, if that makes sense. Okay, so again, some basic ways as to how to do this. High protein foods. Okay, so at the end of this, I will provide you with like a wee template as to what protein foods are, what high fiber foods are, etc. But for now, protein-based foods are all your meats, so your red meats and your poultry, your cottage cheeses, your Greek yogurts, your eggs, protein shakes, protein bars. They're all your protein-based foods, okay? So if you can have one of those sources in all of your meals, all of your snacks, that will keep your hunger at bay, okay? It will balance out your blood sugar levels, and it will allow you to achieve a greater deficit because you're not binging and you're not restricting. And it'll make that fat loss journey a wee bit easier. Your high fiber foods, so they come into like your fruits, your vegetables, your oats, your bananas, your greens. I'm having a mind blank here, but they're all your high fiber foods, okay? And again, the more of those you have, the better they are for your digestive tract, okay? And they'll fill you up a wee bit more as well. Food volume. So this is more or less the amount of calories you can get on the plate to serve your needs. All right. So again, if you go for more food volume, how you do this? Bulk up all your plates, all your meals with piles of colour. Colour comes in the form of fruits and veg. The more fruits and veg you have within your meals, the more volume. So you'll be satisfied for longer. All right. And again, once it comes to tracking those sorts of things, I wouldn't worry too much about tracking them because they're relatively low with calories anyway, but really high in microminerals. But do stack your plate. Typically, I suggest 2 handfuls of vegetables per 2 meals a day. So typically your lunch and your evening meal. Stack them full of vegetables. Eat slowly and mindfully is another thing. Again, most of us eat in maybe stressful situations throughout the day, and we're rushing in the morning to cook our breakfast and to have it with the kids and to get out to school, etc. Well, maybe not now, but normal circumstances. At work throughout the day, again, we are under pressure at work and we don't actually take time to sit down, chew our food and digest it and to allow ourselves to get the benefit of it. So if you sit down and actually slowly eat your meal, okay, I think guidelines are something like 30 chews per mouthful, but that is insane. I'm not encouraging you to do that because your food will be cold. But do be more mindful of how quick you eat your food, all right? Particularly anybody who has kind of gut issues or like IBS or anything like that there. Typically slow down your food. This will reduce stress from your body, and this will allow you to, this will increase the gut transit time, which will allow you to break down and digest that food a lot better. So again, if you're coming from a position where you say that you're intolerant to this, intolerant to that, take some stress away, slow down your eating, and be more mindful of your food. So again, put your knife and fork down after every chew. Smaller cutlery, a smaller plate. These all make you feel like you're eating more. These feel like you're increasing the food volume, all right? And don't drink your calories. So again, that bottle of wine is very calorific. That fancy coffee out of Cafe Nero can be very calorific, okay? So go for the Americanos. Add in a wee bit of sweetener if you want to. If you're into fizzy drinks, go for the 0 calorie, okay? Huge Diet Coke fan myself just recently. So if you're on a diet and if you want that fizzy drink, but you don't want the calories of a full fat Coke or a full fat Fanta, whatever it is, have a Diet Coke, 0 calories. Plus, it also will help you with the hunger if you're in a diet stage. So when it comes to diet flexibility, again, there's many ways to skin a cat. You can go be on any type of diet. What it is just simply a manipulation of calories, all right? So here in the graph, the blue line is if somebody wants to eat the same amount of calories every day across the week, okay, they can drop body fat. So that number there that they're at is like 1600 calories, okay? If I'm on the same calories, but I want to have a few higher calorie days at the weekend from the green, okay, you will notice that I have pulled back my calories. So say the top of the blue line there is maintenance calories. So if I hit that every day of the week, I can drop body fat, okay? But if I know that I've got a big weekend coming, or I want to go out, or I want to have a glass of wine and a Chinese at the weekend, then all I need to do to account for those higher calories the weekend is pull back throughout the week, okay? So you'll notice here that in the greens again is me going some high days and some low days, okay? So if my daily calorie allowance is sitting around 1600, that's what I need on a daily basis, but I want to have that Chinese at the weekend, I can have some days at like 1350, this is like 1400 I think, 1300 calorie days, and then allow myself those 1800 calorie days, 1700 calorie days in the green closer to the weekend. Okay, so that's how you get a wee bit flexible with it. It doesn't have to be the same amount of food on a daily basis. You can split that across the period of a week. So your weekly allowance, what we calculated at the start, you can have those higher calorie days, those lower calorie days, or you can stick to the same calories every day across the period of a week to give yourself more control, more ownership of your food, and to just allow you to get into the process of tracking and understanding your food a wee bit easier. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. But again, you don't have to be in diet mode all the time. You can have those higher calorie days if you are taking ownership of your food, if you're tracking and getting a better understanding as to what works. Okay, I find that giving my clients this flexibility within their food choices and across the period of the week promotes adherence. So they actually don't feel like the diet's just as hard, okay? Because they know that they can have a bottle of wine or a glass of wine at the weekend or their favorite foods, okay? It doesn't always have to be this diet mentality where it's salads or chicken and broccoli, okay? I very rarely eat that, those types of foods, and very rarely promote them to clients, okay? So you can have a lot of flexibility. You can have a bar of chocolate in the evening, couple of evenings a week if you want, okay, as long as you're within your calorie allowance and as long as you've hit your protein or as close as possible throughout the day. So this square here then is how you kind of, or my kind of principles around diet flexibility or flexible nutrition. It's not how much you eat, how much you eat is much more important than what you eat. So again, if you're this type of person that doesn't want to eat carbohydrates or doesn't want to eat sugar, that's okay. You go with that. But it's much more important how much you eat, i.e. your daily calorie allowance. If you're overeating or under consuming, that's what will make shape change, okay? Either for the better or for the worse. You can and you should eat food you like. So again, I don't like telling people what to eat if they don't like it. Giving you these numbers, giving you the bit of education allows you to make up your own mind so that you know that you can have whatever it is, whatever your favorite foods are, as long as you fit the principles that I've already explained, i.e. calories and protein. If you do this, you can have your favorite foods. You can get creative with what you eat on a daily basis. You can eat different foods every day. You can have that whatever you want at the weekend, as long as you get the process of your weekly calorie allowance. Once you do this, you can eat whatever you want, more or less. Eat on a schedule that works for you. So again, if you don't wake up in the morning and have an appetite, you don't have to force yourself to eat. As long as throughout the period of 24 hours, you have hit your calorie allowance. So again, if you are a shift worker, you can eat in the middle of the night. You can have your main meals in the middle of the night. You don't have to wait to kind of fall in line with breakfast, lunch, and dinner typical times. Okay, eat in line with your hunger and your lifestyle, and have this 80-20 approach. Again, if you have this approach, you won't have to diet for life. You can gain a lot more control, a lot more understanding of your food if you take this 80-20 approach. People who come on board any diet with an all or nothing mentality, chasing perfect and chasing for perfection within their meal plans, they don't last that long, okay? Because you're human. You will want carbohydrates. You probably will want chocolate. You might want a glass of wine. They are all perfectly acceptable as long as you have 80% of your meals, 80% of your nutrition is from good, nutritious meals. which are high in micromineral density and high in protein. Okay, so that allows you that 20% of food that aren't typically seen on diet plans. Okay, so yes, you might see me go into pizza on the weekend. I am human, that is normal, and that is life. If you do that as opposed to restrict yourself too often and too much, then you're going to come off that imaginary bandwagon. Okay, so take this 80-20 approach. This, by tracking your calories, by having this flexibility, it allows you to take ownership. Okay, and restrict or removes you from this all or nothing, I'm on a diet for life mentality. If it hasn't been working for you up until this date and you're still not happy with your body shape, then this is a way that you need to be moving forward. So again, some of you might be on here and you don't want to track, and that's 100% fine. Okay, I would advise clients or people beginning to learn about nutrition to track in the early stages so that they get a better understanding and awareness of foods, volumes, calories, sugars, etc. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Okay, these next few slides are different ways to go about your daily food consumption without worrying about tracking. Okay, so plate design. Again, if you look down at your plate, you should have a protein source, all right, which I will provide you more of at the end of this through like a wee sheet. But again, you're thinking your eggs, you're thinking meats, fishes, cottage cheeses, Greek yogurts, and protein bars, protein shakes. Okay, they're all great sources of proteins. So if you look down at your your plate, you should have a protein source. All right, then you should see loads of color. If you look down your plate and it's full of white, typically breads, pastas, rices, those are all carb dense. Okay, so you do want to bring color out there because that's bringing food volume, that's bringing microminerals, and it's quite low in calories. And then again, look at your plate. If you haven't trained today, you don't need to be eating huge bowls of oats in the morning, a large sandwich and crisps in the middle of the day, and then a big bowl of pasta at night time. Okay, you just don't need that. So eat your carbohydrates around activity. All right, so whenever you look down your plate, you're looking for protein and color. My number one philosophy. If you don't see it, then your plate hasn't been designed right. Okay, aside from that, then this the small hand template is from Precision Nutrition. And again, if you don't want to weigh your food, if you don't want to track your food, you can use this simple diagram here to, again, assess what your plates look like, assess if you're going to be closer to target or off target. Okay, now whenever it comes to protein, you're thinking a palm size serving. For females, that's 1 palm size serving. For males, you're just using your 2 hands for that. Okay, so 2 palm size serving. For vegetables, again, you're looking for a protein serving within each of your meals. Okay, for vegetables, you're typically looking for about 2 fist-sized servings. Okay, and that's across the board for males and females. Once it comes to carbohydrates, you're looking for a cupped hand. Okay, so again, nothing wrong with a bowl of oats in the morning, but if it's a ginormous bowl of oats and you're not going to train that day, and then you've got carb meals lined up for the rest of the day, you're going to overconsume in calories chances. Okay, so bear that in mind. Reduce your portion of carbohydrates, and you can still have them in every meal if you do choose to work with these portions. Okay, you can still do that. But typically our plates are jammed with carbohydrates. So whenever you think about designing your plate, you're thinking about, I'm going to have chips tonight, and then I might have steak with it, or whatever else. But carbs typically comes first whenever people are thinking about their meals. So I want you to flip that, and I want you to base your meals around your protein sources and your vegetable sources, and then carbs just are fillers. Okay, your fats are typically a thumb-sized serving. All right, so again, you'll cook in like coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil, what else? Rapeseed oil. You can cook in whatever type of fat you want, really. But you need to have only a thumb-sized serving, obviously per person. So if you're cooking for the family, you might have 2 or 3 thumb-sized servings in there. Okay, your fats are very calorific and nutrient dense, so that's why you can't overconsume them. So again, nuts is a healthy fat source, but if you eat a full bag of nuts, you're going to be way over your calorie consumption because they're so calorific. Okay, so it's important to have that in mind. So yeah. So again, some more non-tracking strategies. So use that hand portion control like I mentioned before. Use your protein and colour in every meal, and then have your carbohydrates around performance. So even if you don't want to track, use those two philosophies. They are king, okay? Again, just using and kind of strengthening your eye on the plate, that will help you make better decisions. Again, just like tracking, if you track for a full week and you haven't dropped body fat, then you need to manipulate your calories on MyFitnessPal. If you do the same thing with your hand portion control, and that's how you're tracking more or less throughout the week, if at the end of the week and you haven't dropped body fat, then you need to reassess your tracking. So you need to think about, okay, maybe I can have more protein in that meal, maybe I can have more veg in that meal, and maybe I actually don't need 4 slices of toast in the morning, maybe I'll pull back and have only 2. Okay, so those are different ways you can assess on a weekly basis to decipher if you are moving closer to your goals or not moving fast enough. Okay, protein after a workout, and then a larger protein hit pre-bed. So again, protein is the #1 thing that most people underconsume. But if you underconsume protein, you've still got appetite, you've still got calories, so you're going to fill them up with something else. Okay, so you need to think about increasing your protein intake. And if you take nothing else from this presentation other than upping your protein intake and staying within your calories, then you'll win. All right. Protein after a workout, again, it can be in the form of a protein shake. However, I'm well aware that most females are hesitant or afraid to take a protein shake. Don't be, if that is you. I classify a protein shake, a whey protein, as like a performance food, but at the same time, it's not required. If you can consume adequate protein from your main meals, from your chickens, your porks, your beefs, minces, eggs, etc., you might not need that protein shake, but have a protein-based meal after your workout to help replenish and repair your muscles. And then think about a larger protein hit pre-bed. So again, finish the night off with some cottage cheese, with some jelly, or like a large bowl of Greek yogurt with some fresh fruit in it. And that will help, not only help your satiety and help you hit your daily protein goal, but that will also help your sleep quality as well. Another basic tip is whenever you're cooking for the family, again, don't eat the same serving size as your boyfriend, as your husband, as the male person at the table, okay? Yes, they have greater muscle mass, they have an increased calorie allowance. So if you're constantly sitting down to the same portion size as your husband or your boyfriend, then you need to do more in the gym. Otherwise, you're gonna put on weight, okay? You need to walk more, you need to do more reps in the gym, whatever it is. But if you're always sitting down to the same portion size as a male person, you will gain weight, okay? It's as simple as it is. So as sexist as that is, to give the male more food, that's what's required, okay? And you don't always have to finish your plate. Again, as much of a sin as it potentially is to think about leaving food on the plate at the end of a meal, you don't always have to finish your plate. If you decide that you don't want to track your food, simply don't finish all your meals, okay? Now, I'm not saying only eat half your meal. Try to eat most of it, but don't feel like you have to finish all your meals. And that's a simple calorie saving technique, okay? Again, if you choose to go down that route, think about eating your proteins and your veg first, and then leaving your carbohydrates to last, okay? Again, wee simple things like that will make a huge difference in the total volume and the calories that you eat on a daily basis if you decide that you don't want to track. Tracking, again, is the preferred option for an education purpose in the early stages of a diet, but it's not something you need to be doing for life, okay? Again, typically with my clients, I would get them to track maybe 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, depending on whether they like it and want to adhere to it. And then after that, it goes to more intuitive eating. So they've got a better understanding, a better grasp as to what works for them. And then they can go on to more of intuitive eating. Then if they have a function or a holiday coming up, then I would get them back into tracking those maybe that week or 10 days pre-event so that they have a better understanding and they can pull back quite easy if they choose to, okay? So these are things you can do if you decide you don't want to track. So a wee bit about COVID diet mentality. So again, at the minute, people feel like they're either on a diet and they want to lose weight, or the wheels are off the bandwagon and they really don't care as to what's going on with their diet. And that's perfectly fine, okay? You don't have to, it's not right or wrong to be in either or bandwagon at the minute, okay? You choose what works for you, and whenever the time's right, whenever everything settles again, then hopefully you'll have enough knowledge gained from tonight to have a better understanding, okay? But if you are in diet mode at the minute, and I believe it's a perfect opportunity for you to, because there's no social occasions, because you're not going out or anything, you have full control of what's in the cupboards, full control over what's going on in your mouth, and you've also got less stress in your life because you don't have to travel or commute to work, okay? So I do believe it's a perfect time to drop some body fat if you're in the right mindset for it, but you have to actually want to. So if you are on diet mode at the minute, think about tracking consistently, okay? Again, track for a week. If you haven't dropped any body fat, then you need to either do more activity on a daily basis or pull back in calories slightly. And this allows you that flexibility. So even if your partner's not on diet mode, you can still have that bottle of beer at the weekend, or go to pizza or whatever it is, okay? You can still do that, but tracking gives you that understanding as to if you're moving closer to your goal or a wee bit further away. If you are on diet, but you maybe don't want to track, if you're not as active as you used to be, i.e. if you used to have a pretty active job and now you're sitting on the sofa all day, then you won't be expending as much calories, okay? So then you need to think about pulling back on calories slightly, all right? And this is just a subconscious thing that you're going to have to make a decision on. If at the end of the week, again, you feel like your trousers are a wee bit tighter, then make a decision that you either need to move more or eat a wee bit less, okay? And it's not always that simple, but just make those decisions, all right? And again, if you're not training or if you're going to lie on the couch all day, you don't need as much carbohydrates, okay? So think about pulling back and going on low carb days, all right? If you're completely off the bandwagon and you don't want to think about diet at all, that's okay, okay? Again, some people's under a lot of stress, just with worry and anxiety. So maybe right now is not the time for diet, and that's 100% fine, okay? But it is a time to maybe pay attention to your food and to get a better understanding from your nutrition. So if you're not dieting, you don't want to diet, that again is cool. All you need to do is, again, think about upping your steps and being more active. So hitting or chasing that 10,000 steps, maybe even more on a daily basis. Use that hour outside of the house to go for a long walk. Again, think about protein in every meal. Add more colour to your plates. And then make a decision whenever you go to reach into the cupboard or reach into the fridge every day. Are you actually hungry or are you bored? Okay? Again, you don't need to track food. You don't need to be in a diet mode at the minute if that's not your place. Okay? But do ask yourself that question every time you think about going to reach into the cupboard. Are you hungry or are you bored? Okay, very, very simple. And it could save you a couple of 100 calories. Very, very easy. All right, and those are all going to add up across the period of a week. So are you hungry? If you're not hungry, step away. Okay, again, the best diet is, what is the wee saying? The best diet is the one you can push yourself away from the table or whatever it is, can't remember it now. But if you're not actually hungry, take those few seconds pre-making that decision to binge on some crisps or chocolate for that instant gratification whenever you know fair and well that you're going to feel like crap after it. Take a few moments to actually decide if you're hungry or if you're bored. If you're bored, go and find some jigsaw to do, read some book, do some star jumps, go outside for a walk, grab a glass of water, whatever it is. But if you're actually bored, then just move away from the cupboard. It's not going to lead to anything good. So yeah, just to finalize it all up, folks, work hard once. So again, I'm a huge believer that you do not need to be dieting for life. If you are, you're doing it wrong, okay? Again, typically a diet span might go from 8, 12, 16 weeks, but if you're dieting for life, then you're simply doing it wrong, okay? So there are different ways and means as to how you can go about it. Just change your approach. But be patient, be consistent, okay? Again, depending on what age you are, you've built up a lot of habits from maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They can be bad habits. So you're not going to overnight. No matter how much you want to, you'll not change those habits overnight. Just like the gym, whenever you go into the gym, you can't start off with a PB squat or like a max weight back squat. It just doesn't happen, okay? So be patient with yourself and be consistent with your goal, okay? And act from your end goal. So again, think about your dream body. Think about your how you want to be and act from that person as opposed to a low self-image person, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, if there's any questions, you can fire away.
Thanks very much, Sarah. That was brilliant. Loads of strategies there to implement, which is great. One of the things I found, just I'm sure some people will agree, that I would talk to a lot of people that would say that they eat very healthy all the time. Like they do choose the right foods. It's just the fact that they get frustrated that there is no physiological changes. But whilst they're in the gym, yes, they're training. You mentioned earlier, I really like the thought of using the tower block more often. Like if people could use that tower block where they're really honing in on the NEAT with the 10,000 steps and the protein portion sizes, like the thermic effect or whatever of food, that would be much better. Because yes, you're in the gym 2, 3, 4 times a week. They are seeing increases in strength. They're seeing better mobility. Their cardio is increasing, but their physical change is not happening sometimes. So I do think that tower block is very, very, very helpful.
So once it comes to eating healthy, like typically, like again, everybody's making loads of sweet treats these weeks, and like they're full of nut butter, full of dates and flax seeds and whatever else. And typically those are good foods, okay? They're healthy foods, but some of them can be very calorific. So even if I love avocado, okay? I don't love avocado, I consume it, but I don't love it. But if I love avocado and I have it in every meal, okay, that's very calorific. And if I can over consuming calories from those healthy foods, or even from nut butters or nuts and seeds, like it still all comes down to a calorie deficit. So if you track for a wee while to kind of get a better understanding as to the amount of calories in those healthy foods, you can then pull back from them, making a better judgment of that, and pulling out maybe some of the portion sizes to allow yourself to change physiologically, as you're mentioning. But once it comes to that and you feel like you're eating healthy but you're not changing body shape, again, you're simply not in a calorie deficit. So like if you have a really poor relationship with food and you've been trying to diet forever, and you're maybe only eating like 1,200 calories, and but yet your body, the numbers are suggesting you're on like you should be consuming 1,500 calories, your metabolism has just lowered because it's adjusted to what you've been feeding it. Okay, so there will be a bit of metabolic adaptation there that you do need to go through. So again, that's the benefit of working with a coach, because I can give you all generic numbers right now, but if I've been dieting for years and I'm constantly on a really low calorie allowance, then my body will want to work down to that. So even if I'm eating healthy, I could be over consuming or under consuming depending on my relationship with food, if that makes sense. So again, there's a lot of personalization that goes into it. But if you're eating healthy and training well, and you don't want to drop calories, then all you got to do is move more. So again, back to the block. If you start to be more active, try to get more steps in throughout the day, that will play huge dividends to your end goal. But again, there is no right. You kind of have to feel it through for a while, and then if it's not working for you, then you need to make a change. But there's really no kind of one size fits all whenever it comes to that.
100%. It's something similar with the calories. Some people are on board with calories. Some people aren't so much on board with it, just due to the numbers and the confusion of it sometimes. And they maybe need to have a sit down with a coach or whatever. But the likes of the precision nutrition that implement the habit change and the portion sizes, like you could be on 2 weeks of calorie counting and then get fed up. But after those 2 weeks, you're gonna see your food every day. You kind of know your portion sizes automatically without even thinking about it, so you can revert to the other.
Big time. So the education behind the tracking, I think, is a real beauty on it. So yes, it's time consuming and it's maybe draining and confusing at the early stages, but like simple works. Like, are you leaner at the end of the week if that's your goal? If not, you've simply consumed a wee bit too many calories, so you need to pull back slightly or just do more steps. So like at the end of the week, if your numbers don't add up, then that's when you need to change it. But you do only need to do it for a few weeks. And that education, that understanding, visual awareness of your plate will allow you not to have to do it forever, if that makes sense.
100%. Well, I'll just open up to the rest of the group here to see if anybody wants to join in.
Everybody gets shy at this
stage. I have a question.
Alison?
Yeah, I just have a query. How often, Sarah, do you feel people should weigh themselves?
Completely dependent on you and your relationship with the number that's looking back at you. I have some clients who weigh themselves on a daily basis. I have other females who, if they did that, that would drive them absolutely insane. So some clients weigh themselves daily, some clients weigh themselves weekly, every second week. Again, depends on your reaction to the number, if that makes sense. Again, maybe your overall goal will play a huge factor as well. If you have maybe a lot of weight to lose, you're doing all the nutrition, you're doing all the work training wise, then you don't really need to make those assessments every week because you know that you're going to be getting results. Whenever it comes to the female cycle, again, I would get clients to do it in around week 1 and week 3 of their cycle. I wouldn't get them to weigh in week 2 and 4 because again, they're going to weigh heavier. Even if they're doing the right training and eating the right foods, they will weigh heavier in week 2 and 4. So again, very personalized. It depends on you. If you learn to scale every day, you can get a nice average across the period of a week. But if you know that that affects you negatively, then I wouldn't do it. And again, nobody cares what weight you are on the scale. I don't care what weight any of my clients are, as long as they say that they're visually improving and visually getting better. So scales, as important as it is to have data, you can't let that data affect your mood and your day-to-day goings about life. So would you ever, it mightn't really answer your question. But
yeah, would you focus more on inch loss as opposed to weight loss?
Big time. Yeah.
You would. Right.
Yeah. Again, if you're in the gym and you're doing weights, you're going to be putting on muscle mass. So like I can have clients who are visually changing quite a lot, losing a lot of body fat, but their weight on the scale stays exactly the same. So again, if you don't have an understanding of that or an awareness as to what's going on, and you're focused on the number and the scale's going down and down and down, and you don't even care that your weight on the bar or in the gym is going up and up, and you're pulling in inches wise, then there's a wires crossed there. So you need to think about what your focus is. Ideally, I want to push all my girls to just focusing on visual changes and inches changes.
And because obviously at the minute we're not actually training with weights, we're doing body weight training. How do we know that it's not muscle mass that we're losing instead of body fat?
How you look, more or less. So again, if you're taking visual pictures, you will see the difference. Okay, so if you're putting on muscle mass, you'll look toned, you'll look leaner, whereas if you're dropping body fat and losing muscle mass at the same time, you will look leaner, but you'll lose your shape as well. Okay, so the muscle mass is where the shape comes in, and that's what you're kind of looking to build upon. But again, your potential to maybe build muscle mass at the minute might be masked in comparison to what you were doing previously. So as long as you're visually happy with your shape change, then that's all that matters.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, or?
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
I think it's just easier there if instead of me unmuting everybody, that anybody that wants a question just unmutes themselves. Works better.
Do you know of any high protein Pinot Grigios? Asking for a friend.
Unfortunately not.
Okay, sorry.
But yeah, that's the beauty. Like, as long as it fits into your calories, like you can have as much red wine as you want, but you'll be able to. You can have those types of food. Again, whenever people think about diets, they think clear the cupboards of all this wine and chocolates and crisps or whatever, but like you can have those foods. It's maybe about being a wee bit more resourceful with what options you're choosing. But by allowing yourself some of those different types of options throughout the week, that can actually allow you to adhere to your diet more long term as well. So Again, it's all about balance, Pete. One glass in each hand.
No, I like the way you mentioned about actually it's strange from someone that runs a gym to say the amount the gym actually plays a part in fat loss. And the other thing was that by understanding the amount of effect it has, and you stating that this is a good time to lose weight, it may change the perspective that some of our members have, that this is a good time to actually attack it, because you can choose better the food they're going for, not for all our members, but for, I'd say, the majority. You're in very good control of the situations you're putting yourself in, and you're in control of what's coming into your house, and you understand the percentage that the gym plays in losing body fat. All the benefits from the gym are there, but for fat loss, it's nice that maybe people will come away from this going, no, this might be the best 6 weeks I get now ahead of me for losing weight. So thank you for that.
Yeah. No, again, I'm not taking anybody away from the source that promoting them to not go to the gym for that extra 10%. I'm a huge fan, obviously, but it only plays a small part. But at the same time, whenever it comes to people's mindset at the minute, some people just aren't in the right mindset to think about. Like if you go into the shops, everybody's buying crisps, everybody's buying junk food. So some people's just not in the right mind space for fat loss, and that's very important as well. You do need to be in the right mind space in order to think about, because it is a discipline, and you do need to be disciplined in order to attempt to drop body fat. So if you're not in the right mind space to drop body fat right now, just chill, enjoy your time off, enjoy the reduced stress. But yeah, if you're want to chase fat loss, then now is a perfect time. There's no social occasions, and you're in control of what's in the cupboard. But it's all to do with mindset in that regard, I think.
Agreed.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That was brilliant, I'm also recording this here at the minute, bar the first maybe 2 minutes of it. So I can download this for anybody that missed maybe the first 10 minutes of it, that popped in late. But just to recap on it as well, if anybody hadn't taken any notes, we'll get this put on the file and stick it up on the members page as well. But yes, Sarah, it was brilliant. Thank you very much.
Super. Hopefully he's enjoying, picked up something from it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure we'll have you on again some stage, maybe on another topic or something like that. But that'll be great.
Brilliant. If anybody wants to ask me any questions, like if you're afraid to or shy within this environment, you can message me on social media, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. Other than that, have an awesome rest of COVID.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That was brilliant.
No worries, guys. Have a nice one.